Okay, so I'm going to start off by talking about hierarchies. So these are a really important way that we can organize the objects in our 3D scene. So if I was to, let's create a box here, and let's make a sphere next to that. And I'll just maximize the viewport there. So I've got these two objects here, and you can see them both in the Scene Explorer at the side. But what I can do is I can set them up in a hierarchy. So if I click on the sphere, and I just drag it over to the top of the box, and then I let go, you'll see that now I've got this little arrow here, and I can click on the arrow to show and hide the sphere. And the sphere is now kind of nested under the box. So you'll see that it's been indented a little bit. And this is a hierarchy set up here. So we've got the box at the top and the sphere below in the hierarchy. And this is a really useful way that we can organize the objects in our Scene Explorer. But much more important than that, it's also very useful for kind of the way it works in the actual scene. So if I click on the box and then move the box around, you'll see that now the sphere actually moves with the box. And if I select the sphere, I don't know if you can guess what would happen if I was to move the sphere. So I move the sphere, and you'll see that the box doesn't move with it. So it's only the sphere that's moving, and that's because of the way this relationship's set up. So the terminology we use is that the box is the parent object, and the sphere is the child object. And basically anything we do to the parent object will affect the child object, and I can also rotate it, and you can see that the sphere is also being affected. But any changes we make to the child object, the sphere in this case, that won't affect the parent object, the cube here. And this is exactly the same way as folders work inside Windows. Basically, if we have a folder in Windows, if I was to move this folder and drag it somewhere else, then all of the contents of that folder would be moved with it. But if I was to drag a folder within that folder somewhere, like this folder here, it wouldn't affect the folder above it, and it wouldn't affect any of the folders above that, you see. So in Windows, we've got a kind of hierarchy of our folders, and it's exactly the same here inside 3ds Max. Yeah, and we can have more than one object in a hierarchy. So just to let you know, if you want to remove an object from the hierarchy, what we do is we just drag on it, and we drag it out of the hierarchy. And now these are no longer arranged in that hierarchy, and they won't be affecting each other. But if I drag the sphere back in, I can add another object in here. So let's make a cylinder. There we go, there's my cylinder. And I can arrange the cylinder so the cylinder is a child of the box as well. So now if I move the box, what do you think will happen? Yeah, both of the objects move with it. But if I move the sphere, what do you think will happen? Yeah, neither of the other objects get moved, and the same with the cylinder, because these are both children of the box. But I can also set it up so that the cylinder is a child of the sphere. So if I drag and drop the cylinder, so now we've got an extra arrow here, and you can see that the cylinder is a child of the sphere is a child of the box. The sphere is also a parent of the cylinder, so that's both a child and parent in this relationship here. So now when I move the box, you can guess what will happen. All three objects will move, but if I move the sphere, it's going to be just the cylinder and the sphere that move. And finally, when I move the cylinder, it's going to only affect the cylinder, and neither of the other objects will move with it. So yeah, that's really helpful for kind of, organizing our objects. Often I'll have, if you're making something that's composed of lots and lots of different objects, you'll make, one of those objects the parent object, and then when you move that object, let's say we're making a car perhaps, we have the main body of the car would be the parent object, and you can then attach the wheels as the children objects to the main object. One thing you've got to be careful though is when you've scaled objects and you've set them up in a hierarchy. So if I just remove these two objects, and now I go in and scale the cube. Let's just set that to local, and let's scale it along one axis like this. So if I now drag the sphere to be a child of the box, and if I now rotate the sphere, you'll see that when I do that, it sort of distorts weirdly like this. And that's because the kind of coordinate space that the sphere is in is the box's coordinate space, and that coordinate space has been stretched along one axis, basically. So in order to fix this, what we need to do, if I just press undo a few times and remove the, in fact, I don't need to remove it. What I need to do is go in and basically reset the scale transform of this object. So what I do is I select the box, and I'll come over to the third tab along. So we haven't used this one yet, but it's called the Hierarchy tab. And we'll scroll down to the bottom, near the bottom, and you'll see here there's a reset button and there's a scale here. So when I do that, it won't actually change the way the box looks, but it has actually reset the scale. And if I go into the scale option here, you'll be able to see these are all now back to 100. And now if I rotate the sphere, then I don't get it distorting like that. So yeah, if you use scale with objects in a hierarchy, just make sure that you go in and reset the scale for those objects. So one final thing, I can't remember if we covered or not, but it's useful to rename the objects in your hierarchy sometimes. And to do that, what you have to do is select the object first, and then click again on the object, and then you'll be able to change the name to whatever you like. But just be careful, it's not a double click. So a double click will actually select the whole hierarchy, but to change the name you need to kind of click once and then wait and then click again.